close open split, the tragedy of the depressive position. This is our subject today. It is based upon a new and more holistic and a more creative reading of the Kleinian concept of the split and the depressive position. It is also an existential approach to the split and the depressive position. And it also brings out how the concept of paranoid schizoid split and the depressive position itself involves a split. And this concept requires a major overhaul, a rehaul. And on this we are going to discuss today. I will divide today's discussion into 5 parts. And I will take up each of the parts based upon the questions which have been put to me. Can we start with the phrase you have coined, close open ecstasy, the tragedy of the depressive position? What does it mean? Early in life, we experience ecstasy, a psychological state of ecstasy, which combines ecstasy, freedom, resourcefulness, and our ability to believe in ourselves without any inhibition. And this position was called by Klein as the experience of the all good breast, the ecstasy of the all good breast. However, in Kleinian view, this psychological state is followed by the state of paranoia. And in order to resolve the terror of paranoia, the two extreme states of ecstasy and paranoia, in order to get past them, we move from a paranoid schizoid position to a depressive position. It is a reality position, a mature position, where we realize that neither of the states, extreme states, are sustainable, nor are they necessary. And the same object is alternately all good and all bad, and therefore it is neither. And we bring the two perceptions about the same object together to create a mixed realistic perception about the object, in Klein's terms, either the breast or the mother. The Kleinian thinking for a long time has revolved around how to go from paranoid schizoid to the depressive position. As though there was everything wrong about the paranoid schizoid position and everything right about the depressive position. This is far from the truth. In fact, what actually happens is not as we simplistically understand in Kleinian terms. In traditional Kleinian theory, we say either the split is successfully resolved and one enters a depressive position, or the split remains open and one is vulnerable to psychological problems because of the open split. And the healing method then is to get into a depressive position in therapy. That thinking itself involves a split where one says the paranoid schizoid position is all bad and the depressive position is all good. The reality is slightly more complex. The reality is this: very few people successfully resolve the paranoid schizoid split and bridge it completely and enter into a complete depressive position, which is very strong and endures for most of the time in their lives, except a very few stressful times. Most people resolve it partially. The split is resolved partially, and partially the split is open. So there is actually a continuum of resolution. It is not a zero or one kind of a situation. What happens there is we fail to understand that the depressive position is not a very profitable position. It is profitable in one sense, the paranoia is gone, but it is extremely loss making in another sense that the ecstasy also is gone. And for a large section of population, the loss of ecstasy is much higher valued much more than the loss of paranoia, I mean the relief from paranoia. And therefore, many people don't get into a complete resolution of paranoia. They resolve the split in a way where I say, you can look at the resolution of the split in three categories. One, almost no resolution, which is a very difficult situation. It's a recipe for psychosis and very difficult kind of problems. So one category is almost no resolution. Second is good enough resolution. And the third is a predominant resolution. Most people in the predominant resolution become very, very practical people. And they are very successful in roles which are called, which need men of the world, so to say. Very practical, very rooted in reality. But because the split is almost completely closed, they no longer experience the freedom, the openness, the blank canvas, the ecstasy, and the healthy self-belief or the narcissistically healthy self-belief of the paranoid schizoid position. And this creates a difficulty because this brings us to the point of what we all need. We all need that range of feelings which we call ecstasy, bliss, and delight. This and beauty and wonder. And these five feelings essentially are feelings of the split when it is open. These are not depressive position feelings. They have been marketed as such, but they don't appear as such in experience. And when the split is almost completely closed, the depressive position itself becomes a tragedy. It's a tragedy of the depressive position, where the depressive position is too strongly achieved. Because on one hand, it is very good for someone who wants to succeed in very practical roles in life. But if one looks at the entire area of life in terms of art, in terms of anything that leads to ecstasy, bliss, beatitude, spirituality, wonder, all those higher happinesses, higher flavors of happiness, they are completely out. And if we look at happiness into two categories, one, where we see a contraction of nerves, and second, where we have expansive feelings, they are not nerve contraction pleasures. All the refined and higher parts of life involving wonder, involving delight, bliss, ecstasy, beauty, they all are expansive forms of pleasure, higher flavors of happiness, and they are not easily available to someone who has closed the paranoid schizoid position almost completely. For the person who has closed it completely, the ordinary contractual pleasures only remain the pleasures, and therefore one sees them extremely craving for either money or power or sense pleasures at any cost, and most of the times they get into unethical uh, workings to satisfy those things. But on the whole, it is a tragedy because the man of the world, so to say, does not experience those higher forms of, I should not say does not experience, but experiences much less the higher forms of pleasures that we define, the expansive pleasures. This is actually a tragedy of the depressive position, because if the paranoid schizoid split is too open, you can close it. But if it's closed, and that itself is a problem, it's difficult to go further. You can solve a problem, you cannot solve a solution. Once you are settled with the solution itself, there is a larger difficulty how to get over the consequences of the solution. This also has an element of real life experience of life. The real life experience of life over a period of time slowly closes the paranoid schizoid position and enhances the strength of the depressive position. Over age, the experiences of life make us more real, less dreaming, less open about possibilities, more accepting of one's lack of freedom, and over a period of many years, the ecstasy that we felt, the bliss, the ecstasy, the delight, the openness, the wonder, the beauty, the thrill that we felt, these seven elements are slowly reduced and one forgets even the memory of them over a period of time, especially if the split is very, very resolved. If the split is still open, we may have higher catastrophic thinking and higher anxiety, but we also have plenty of the positive elements which come from an open split. Therefore, the split is not all bad and the depressive position is not all good. In fact, the best of the things and the worst of the things are found in the split open. What is necessary is to manage the split, not to close the split completely. In fact, if it is closed completely, the optimum position would then be to open it out slightly so that the good parts of the split can be felt, because they are the very they are among the best parts that one can experience, and often they are the goal of self-development in spirituality. And therefore, it is the question of managing the split and refining the split, and the spiritual solution is to get rid of the paranoia of the split while maintaining the good parts of the split. This to the Kleinians appears almost undoable, unachievable, but that is a very goal of the spiritual practices, and many people have achieved that difficult accomplishment. The title, therefore, is in this background, that over a period of time, we forget that state of openness, of ecstasy, of self-belief, of positive possibilities in future, the state of ecstasy which we felt in early life. This state is also felt while one is a student and one is dreaming about the profession. Everything seems open, everything seems doable, everything seems pleasant and positive in the future. One has a lot of self-belief, but over a period of time, it gives way to a disappointment, to acceptance of one's limitations, monotony and boredom. Not to mention the frustration, anger and pain, which are largely repressed. Similarly, we have the similar kind of openness and the state of openness and ecstasy with regard to relationships till one gets into a real relationship most of the time. Very few are able to carry on with that positive state if experiences back that positive state. Most people enter into disappointment. Same thing happens in midlife when one is looking at achieving some uh, social position and doing something to change the society. Over a period of time, disappointments build up and the resignation comes in. And that becomes a foundation for dysthymia, depression, or in general the existential crisis of lack of happiness, energy, positivity, gloom, and anger. The title, therefore, is this uh, Close Open Ecstasy, the tragedy of the depressive position. That we need to keep that opening open in various areas of life. And with age, it is only possible to be so by accepting the surreal as our part of life, our fantasy life to be our part of life, and to keep up our positivity. And through catharsis, which can be done through various ways, remove the anger, fear, pain, the disappointment, and resignation which has built up and accumulated over a period of time. If this open ecstatic state starts closing because of reality, it creates a quality of life which is not really a very uh, savorable or pleasurable or really a very meaningful or very positive quality of life. So this is the title about that across our life we have to keep that split optimally open, try to remove the paranoid part as much as we can and try to bring in as much of the ecstatic part into our lives as possible, and to always have some open canvas, because it is like you dream of a person, a man dreams of a woman, and the whole uh, canvas is open. But the moment you see a real person, the openness starts closing because of the constraints and limitations. And once you get involved, that whole open hope and dream structure collapses into a constraint of reality. And once you are involved and entangled and you cannot get out of it, over a period of time, the disappointment and resignation sets in. And what was once open, that entire joy, self-belief, all of that goes away. How to keep that openness to ecstasy open across life is a very deep challenge for everyone. Unfortunately, most people don't even realize what the challenge is. What happens as the open space of hope and dreams is closed? As the till one is not in contact with reality, or till one is positive and optimistic about the future, or till one keeps believing in the whole idea of wonder and good things to come, or one believes in mysticism and spirituality, or one believes in art and imagination. Till these things exist, the ecstatic state does not completely vanish. The ecstatic state, by and large, continues to some degree. When unfortunately too much of reality gets into a person, I use a statement which I wrote somewhere, how can one endure that tragedy, the fate of man condemned to reality? And this is something which is very tragic, that for a large population, this luxury does not exist, and they are condemned to a depressive position by the sheer weight of the socio-economic or interpersonal situations. And that, I think, is a kind of a psychosocial load on the person about which it's not easy to work through in psychotherapy or even in spirituality. The consequence is, by and large, people slip into a sort of a dysthymia, a sort of an existential gloom, resignation, despondency, disappointment, giving up, and they give up all positive projects, all belief in oneself, or partly the belief in oneself, and settle into a and uh, constrained monotony with acceptance that this is what all it is and all it can be. And this is where you see most people post 30s, at least after 35, most of them get into this despondent, resigned, uh, gloomy, almost a dysthymic, semi-depressed kind of condition. And this is the consequence of uh, not having the ecstasy, open, optimistic, positive, wondrous part of the mind active in us, because that is something that we are hardwired to seek for. It is not, it is not something that is a luxury. We are hardwired for it. And if we don't get it, or if we are not even in pursuit of it, the natural outcome is gloom, disappointment, despondency, and resignation. And neither from point of view of happiness, nor from the point of view of productivity, or from point of view of interpersonal relationships, that state does any good to anybody. Is there a way out of it? There are many ways out of it, but first we'll have to look at reformulating the way we look at the all good depressive position in the all bad paranoid schizoid position. That needs to undergo a change. And we have to move from the split to management of the split. That that split between the paranoid schizoid and depressive position, from there to move to managing the paranoid schizoid split in an optimum way. What happens is, too much of the depressive position, for some, it leads to success in the practical world, and they get their dose of pleasure primarily from sense pleasures and ego pleasures, including accumulating money, which is a kind of an ego pleasure. But another group for whom this quest of the ecstatic state is very strong, and by ecstatic state I mean these 7 feelings involving bliss, ecstasy, delight, wonder, beauty, openness, and belief in oneself without any doubt. And this belief has 2 components, the belief of competence and the belief of self-liking and self-love. This and yes, 7th was the the optimism and positivity about future. For a group where these 7 elements are very strongly desired, if they get into a situation where they cannot get into an ecstatic state, maybe because of inner situation of being too strongly in the depressive position, or outer situation which compels them to be in a depressive position, in either of the cases, the route out they seek is in terms of addiction of some sort, which can be a substance addiction, it may be sexuality, it may also be adventure seeking, risk addiction, but somehow they want to get out of that everyday practical state into a state of a high. And they unfortunately are not able to get into a state of high through a positive route of creativity, spirituality, or social work. They take the difficult route of addiction or adventure. And this creates many social problems and of course problems for those at individual levels and interpersonal levels, those who belong to that group. For society at large, it leads to a sort of a feeling stagnation, a sort of a widespread monotony of life, and boredom and ennui, they become existential facts for society as a whole. Nobody knows what to do after 35, 40 because all that is left is to keep repeating the same experiences over and over again, uh, alternately one after another, so that you try to create variety knowing there is not much variety. This is a situation which is difficult from a personal standpoint, a organizational standpoint, cultural standpoint, and also from entertainment standpoint. The difficulty is, despite having a good economic progress, you can still end up into a low quality of life because one, we don't recognize this basic fact, and two, because we don't recognize this basic fact, we don't do anything at a social scale involving developing products or social policies or cultural conventions which can address this problem and help us satisfy these needs of ours, which are very core needs and very pleasurable needs. Have any alternative political or cultural models been tried out to address the issue? This issue is still far away from politics, except for a few countries which have started focusing on happiness development index. Most countries are still obsessed with the economic approach to management of countries through GDP. So the first thing we need to come is to get out of GDP into HDP, into happiness development index or happiness development product or something of that sort. I think there is only one or two countries. One is Bhutan, and there may be a couple of other countries who have started looking at this at a national scale of trying to measure happiness. And once you start measuring happiness, it's just a question of time before you get into what I was saying, the need for bliss, beauty, delight, ecstasy, and so on and so forth. All the components of what I call the state of ecstasy or that return to ecstasy, the state of ecstasy which has all these components. or rather I should not call it the state of ecstasy, I should call it the the first or the primal pleasant state, so to say. That primal pleasant state has these elements of bliss, ecstasy, delight, openness, self-belief, self-love, wonder, creativity, positivity about future, and so on. So politically, we are still slightly away. I think if people start pressing upon their governments, it can soon come in. The progress is slow. It can be made much faster. I think UK now has a minister for loneliness. Sorry. And if we have a minister for loneliness, why not one for happiness? And once we have once we have a minister for happiness, you will automatically get into the deconstruction of happiness, what gives you happiness and how it can be maximized. And once that debate starts, we should very soon end up into the concepts that we are discussing. So the start has been made somewhere in the world in a very small way. We all need to propagate these ideas so that when large enough community agrees to it, there is some pressure on the political system to do it, and then it will happen. Culturally, what has been happening is we access those states largely through entertainment. Very few people do it through art or spirituality or doing good social work. Most of the people access it through entertainment, largely through films or music. Some try to access it through drugs, where by taking drugs, they are able to get into those states in a very dysfunctional way and very costly way. Some get into very risky adventure kind of things to get the same kick out of it and reach again the same positive states through a difficult way. Largely on a social scale, I think cultures also are yet to recognize the need for instances to have adequate dosages of these feelings. The Indian culture, the Hindu culture, has inbuilt into it certain festivals, certain ways of celebrating festivals, which help address this issue. But over a period of time, the way the festivals are celebrated, they are slowly losing the power to really address those issues for which they were meant. So at present, there is nothing as a working model or a proof of concept in cultural terms on a social scale that we can say addresses the ideas we are discussing. Therefore, it calls upon also not only political innovation, but also cultural innovation. Can there be a radical technological or cultural innovation solution to this issue? I think there can be, and it's not difficult to imagine what it can be. To access those rare states, the easiest people have found is what are called designer drugs or experience drugs. And I think when we are addressing the issue that we are talking, we are looking at what I call the experience economy. It's not something that I call. It has been around for a long time. The phrase experience economy. Unfortunately, it is restricted today to theme parks, thematic restaurants, uh, ideational fashion collections, a few Disney parks, and a few spas. I feel the next step to evolve this is to get into experience spas. And once we get into that experience spas and the non-spa area of experience economy also comes out, we have to look at harmless drugs, harmless food products, uh, activities which are healthy and salutary, which are not addictive and non-harming, and yet provide us with experiences. So this whole idea of getting experiences in a healthy, positive way, and through those experiences, which will involve uh, energy healing, it will involve crystal healing, it will involve spiritual practices, it will involve some designer harmless medications, designer foods, and so on. This entire experience economy to address the issues that we were looking at, how to manage the split optimally and how to have those experiences, the positive experiences of the split. That entire thing requires a lot of innovation in a variety of areas, from the sector of spas to the sector of thematic products, which will go across entertainment and the hotel industry and fashion industry, to the pharmaceutical area, to the foods and beverages area, to uh, communes or centers which can give integrated experiential uh, opportunity or experiences involving a variety of techniques from the east and the west. And this entire zone of experiencing uh, the the primal pleasant state feelings, that whole zone of innovations can be done, and I feel we should see them in the next 25 to 50 years. We have completed today's discussion in 5 parts. It's an esoteric discussion, not easy, and it was good to have these questions. We shall discuss some other similar esoteric topics in psychoanalysis, and do send your questions if you have, or any topic that you have in mind in psychoanalysis. You can write to me at hvindia@gmail.com. Thank you.